Okay, welcome everybody. This is the September 17th meeting of the Hudson River Park Advisory Council. I am Tammy Meltzer, the current chair, joined by Jessica Chait from CV4, our vice chair, and from CV2, Dan Miller is online as well. So welcome everybody. Let's get rolling. Please remember to sign in for attendance. If you have not already done so, the link was dropped in the chat. It's on the agenda as well. It's a Google form. If you're having troubles figuring that out, let me know and I'll try and text it to you. All righty. With that, can I get a motion to approve the minutes for June 2024? Okay. Seconded. I hear quietly over here. So are there all in favor? Do I hear any abstentions? No's? Fantastic. Motion passed. We will send the minutes over to Robert so they can be posted online. Thank you. Thank you so much. And with that, we'll move right along. Michael, for the safety report.
Oh, cool. That was fast. Hi.
Yeah.
How are you? I haven't even signed in yet. Is it official? Okay. Tom Fox is here with me. Alan Oster is not here tonight. We sent the notes forward. I don't know if they've been shared widely, but they are available if anybody wants them. Safety Committee met on, when did we meet? Is this the right one? Did I give you the right one? Yeah. Okay. It's September 4th, 2024. I think we are reviewed our notes from our last meeting in June. We have a calendar of meetings and that's available. I hear my echo sound.
It's someone on their phone here.
Somebody
In the room, can you make sure you're on mute?
and your speakers.
Well, we have to be on the phone in order to sign in.
Yeah,
So-
that's
I
confusing.
think you have to use the Google Doc. You
Google
don't have to use the
Okay,
chat.
sorry about that. Gotcha.
So if you have the agenda from the email, just click into there and it's right. The link is right in the.
Will do. Thank you.
Right. Thanks for the time. We reviewed and updated our list of current issues. If you don't know our list of current issues, it is available in print. I will read it out here. Gansevoort. There was some concern about Gansevoort's tidal pools. HRPT said that there is nothing to worry about. There have been no safety issues with the tidal pools reported so far. And they've been there for a little while, so that seems like that's done. The Greenway electric vehicles we discussed, and we have discussed that ad infinitum all forever. How do we more effectively address concerns about electric vehicles on the bike lane? Alan Oster is a smart guy, and he has reframed this question. It's how do we more effectively manage e-bikes on the Greenway? If anybody objects to that, please let us know. But that's how we're going to be proceeding. We updated the committee, HRPT updated us on the following topics. Rob Rodriguez, Chris McGann, and Robert Atterbury are frequent visitors to that committee and are expected to update us, and they do so, I think, very well. Very transparently. Rob R. updated us on the 26th Street maintenance building fire, which everybody should know about. It was in an outbuilding, so nothing to worry about there. There were some suggestions made. Tom, you want to share those with people?
Oh, that they said that the fire had come from the landscaping up the vines that were put on the exterior of the building as an environmental dressing. And they went up into the roof and the timbers under the steel roof itself, the aluminum roof itself. So we suggested perhaps another treatment for the bulkhead wall, a mural or something like that, that doesn't present the fire hazard running up the side. And Rob said they would consider it.
Okay, cool. So we'll circle back and close that loop at an appropriate time. Mary is on the line. Mary reminded us that Noreen sent everybody in the council a note about that fire, which I think speaks to HRPT's continued transparency. Mary, do you want to say anything about that?
No, thanks, Michael.
Cool.
I'll save my voice.
Right on. Chris McGann reported on the number of summonses issued for minor violations. And on top of the line are off-leash dogs, e-bikes, and bikes on the Esplanade, etc. There was a little bit of discussion about that. Dan Miller was there, Mary was there. Anybody have to add or anything that everybody else needs to know?
I think the trust had a good handle on motorized vehicles, and NYPD is cracking down on that type of thing. It's just the e-bikes and the preference for pedal assisted, because a lot of senior citizens probably don't have mobility and they're very helpful. So how do we deal with the differential between the two? Yeah.
We appreciate Chris McGann's presence there, and one thing I think that's notable that I didn't put in the notes, and I probably should, is that crime is, well, actually did, crime overall is down, but there is some partnership with NYPD to do some rule education. I wonder if you want to make sure everybody knows about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when I do the public safety report,
Great.
I'll address it.
Do it there, right on. We reviewed our standing agenda topics. I'll review them. Safety, we work on the idea of doing safety and communication park-wide, safety and education park-wide, safety, accessibility, and visitor experience park-wide. So we try to box things in those categories. Under safety and communication, Rob Rodriguez reports that our systems of communication work for the fire. I think that's highly significant and important to note. If you don't feel that way, then speak up. Chris McGann reminds us that HRP, Hudson River Park Advisory Council member organizations to reinforce the safety message. And I'm going to repeat it here because it's important and I think it's cogent. Chris, call 911 if there is a crime being committed or if it is an emergency. Why do we need to stress that? Because apparently it happens that some people feel, well, it happened and they don't. But it's important that we have it on the record for follow-up, et cetera, and to close that loop. And I'm sure you speak about that later, Chris, if you think it's important. Moving on, Alan Oster suggests that HRPT may want to add signage to the tennis courts and the soccer fields to give information there to people about who to call when there are disputes. So there's conversation about how people share, and of course, people are not good at sharing. Therefore, who should they call for disputes if it comes to an altercation? Maybe we need some signage for that. We're going to have, I think, and later in the notes it says that in our follow-up, we're going to have a conversation around signage in total. So we'll say that for another time. But if you're excited and interested in that topic, then you can attend the safety committee meeting, which is generally on Wednesdays at 9 a.m. And it's a good group. Okay, safety committee report is being given right now. I've updated you. I've done I've fulfilled my responsibility there. These questions are listed. I will not read them out unless the chair thinks that it's necessary.
It is up to you. I don't manage
Nope.
the committee. I am good with where you choose to lead.
Okay, I think that one thing that people should know is that the next safety committee meeting date is Wednesday, October 2nd, 9 a.m. A calendar invite and a Zoom link will follow. If you have questions, you can email me directly, michael@littleisland.org, because that's where I work, and that's where I will be fielding questions about the safety committee. Tom is here, and I'm gonna let him fill in the blanks of anything that I missed.
The only
Please.
thing you missed is giving yourself a congratulations. You're a great chairman. And you really led the committee very well in a timely fashion, got a lot done. I'm looking forward to your leadership.
I feel good about it. Thank you, John. Right on.
All right.
Hi, Tracy Jackson from
Hi,
Assembly
Tracy.
Member Jennifer's office. I just want to raise one thing, but I don't want to overstep the community boards, and I don't know when Hudson River Park may have been notified, but we've been talking to New York State DOT about their upcoming Route 9. They are going to convene a partnership committee that will include the elected offices, the community boards, HRPT, and other stakeholders to address safety and mobility issues along 9A. So stay tuned.
Robert Rodriguez is scheduled to give us an update on the DOT traffic study data at the next meeting, which is on October 2nd.
Excellent, thank
Right
you.
on.
Hi, can I comment to Tracy's point? You know, CB, no?
Go ahead, Dan, because I think you're going the same place I am.
Well, you know what? Go ahead and take it. And if you don't say what I'm saying, since you're in person, go ahead, Tammy.
What I just dropped into the agenda was a letter that we received this week that came from DOT. I'll drop it into the Zoom chat so people can see it as well. It's a letter that came from DOT in response to outreach by the community boards and Mark Levine. And it basically says, let's see, you requested a timeline and suggested including a resiliency assessment along the waterfront and analyzing a potential for a dedicated traffic lane to expand the Hudson River Greenway. We anticipate beginning work, including local outreach, in the coming weeks and expect to be completed in 2 years. We've established a partnership committee to engage all regional stakeholders, including elected officials, community boards, members of the public, city agencies, and subject matter experts. Additionally, we are developing a public involvement plan to address community concerns, potential road user enhancements, and appropriate public outreach methods. It's important to note that this study focuses on multimodal transportation and urban planning opportunities. Will also include resiliency component, and so we are currently working with the Battery Park City Authority, New York City DOT, New York City Department of Design and Construction, and New York City EDC to advance resiliency projects throughout Lower Manhattan. As our study progresses, we'll share any resiliency opportunities with all partner agencies to enhance the coastal protection of the regional infrastructure. And then thank you, and the regional director. So I dropped all that in. I think it's incredibly, timing is everything, as we say. We pushed so hard. When Dan was chair, it was the letters to DOT, state DOT, and all of that. We've really been kind of jonesing for action. It sounds like the next 2 years is our opportunity. So Dan, anything you want to add to that?
No, I don't want to add anything, but let's keep pushing for it because it has to happen. We can't take space from the park. We have to take it from 9A. And I've been working with Tom Fox on this. I had a resolution written. I think it's something the advisory council should support. But this is good news.
Yeah. So that kind of also leads, hang on, Tom, into the next topic that we have, which is mass transit along to get here. Because I think the problem that the city, the state, and everyone forgets is, wow, is Hudson River Park just different today than we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 15. I mean, pick any, I'll even give you 2 because of Gansenberg's opening, or 3. It is such a different west side of Manhattan that we need to address access. And that is the next topic, but let's keep going on where we are with the letter. Yeah, sure.
Can you share that, the DOT letter?
Yeah, I dropped it on the agenda and I'll share it after the meeting as well.
Can you just tell me when the agenda was sent, which email or?
I replied to the one I sent this like 5 minutes before the meeting, reminding people that we were going to be here. So it should be right there. Yes, Tom.
Tammy, it seems like they're working with a lot of city agencies. They seem to have left out the Army Corps of Engineers, State Department of Environmental Conservation, you know, the big boys and girls that are the water part of the resiliency. So we might have to include it, casting a broader net, perhaps.
That should be part of the partner organizations and the groups when they get there. Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else have any questions on this? Okay, awesome. I think the leads kind of naturally into the mass transit access. This started with a conversation, I think post July 4th. And the reason was it was fantastic in the park to watch the fireworks.
Could you just repeat the name of the person who resigned? It was a little garbled. Oh, that's what I thought you said. Oh, okay. From the board?
Nope,
Nope.
nope,
Thank you for clarifying.
you're welcome. After July 4th, if you were at the end of the pier, or if you were like anywhere, like if you think about where we're sitting right now, you're almost about a block away from the major street. And where you really are is 4 or 5 blocks away from mass transit, because mass transit does not go west of 8th Avenue at the moment. It'll be a long day in heck before we get a subway further west. So the question is really buses. Now, anybody have any idea? Did anybody take a look at the bus maps that I put in the agendas? I can share them if you want on the Zoom screen.
How about a shared lane between the electric bicycles and an electric bus?
I mean, I'm down for anything that gets mass transit access up and down to enhance the corridors. Because right now, what I saw with when Gansenbord opened and with everything is signs that we put up that say for Uber pickup, go, cross Ring Street. That doesn't seem to really be solving our congestion transportation issues, and certainly not accessibility.
So like for fireworks, M14, you would have go to basically, I guess, 9th and 17th Street. So but there's, unless you look up bus time, et cetera, you're not gonna know that.
But that only goes north. It doesn't go south.
14,
And when you're in Tribeca, those are 900-foot piers. That's actually 3 city blocks or 1 avenue between, almost 1 avenue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Robert?
So I just wanted to share, this is obviously a great conversation. Love that you guys are engaged in it, and want to reach out to our partner agencies on these things. Certainly with mass transportations, as you know, right, we have our border, this is just over it, but an important question and a really great one. There have been, certainly I just want to remind folks that like, this is a conversation that has come up at various times in the past. Folks, if you have been around long enough in community relations long enough, you'll remember that I think it was like in 2014, there was a conversation about expanding the M11 bus service much further south, which is on 11th Avenue and parts of it, and then also along, I believe, the highway slightly further north. Community Board 2 at the time did not support that expansion. They did not want it running through the village, which even though it would have been much closer on Hudson, Washington, would have run down Washington and only been 1 block in. And then also, I think, folks said it, Dan said it earlier, particularly on, the park's eastern border is bikeways and Route 9A's western border. That's kind of where we meet. And with that, there aren't a lot of places on the west side of 9A for bus stops, for a bus to pull over that would not have to come from, say, if you were to put a lay-by on our side, would involve moving the bike in the current configuration on the bikeway further west, which would have to come from the depth of the park. And as you guys know, particularly at a lot of places, it's 45 feet wide. If you take 8 feet of it, it's not an insubstantial chunk. So with that, there's certainly creative solutions are, particularly I think we definitely agree as state DOT and city DOT with the MTA and all of you are looking at the design of Route 9A as a whole. There really are perhaps opportunities there to be able to create spaces for bus stops or other that are close to us, but that don't come necessarily at the expense of parkland itself.
Just a point, there are pull-offs in front of this building.
Robert, are you done
Okay,
before
sorry.
we go to Tom?
Sure, go for it.
There are pull-offs in front of this building at Pier 45, at Pier 26, that are used by vendors, concessionaires, tenants. Yeah, and having them shared occasionally by a southbound bus wouldn't seem extreme. This doesn't seem heavily used right now. But, you know.
My intent was not to say that there aren't any.
Okay.
There is difference between any and
Limited.
many good ones.
Limited,
And like
yes.
they're limited. Say Pier 40 in front of Pier 40. Even right now, when we have a school bus come in and drop it, it clogs. It can clog it. It can get stuck in a way that maybe doesn't work when it's for a city bus. If you have someone dropping off their kid and all of their football equipment, and it stops our frontage, which happens semi-regularly, unfortunately, as much as we try to not do it, you could stop a city bus for a while. And so there it could be both expensive and difficult to sort of do it there. But Pier 40 is one of the places there isn't really a good spot for a bus near us.
It sounds like a design issue more than anything else.
Certainly, and then there are places in others where
Well, I think that's part of the point. I mean, this dialogue can go on for half an hour, just back and forth, batting each individual location. But as long as DOT is taking a look at 9A, then I think, and I'd like to suggest that the advisory council does a resolution that sends to DOT saying, not only do we want to be part of the dialogue, but we want bus stops. We want a way to get a mass transit access up and down 9A. I mean, it doesn't have to look.
Just for a historical perspective, 9A and the park were designed together.
Yeah.
So having them present to us wouldn't be a bad idea.
True. Dan and then Mary.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm going to share with you a resolution that's not quite ratified yet. Actually, I created, Tammy, because you had no way to get south after our last advisory council meeting. And, I have to disagree with Robert here. I think that we have tour buses going up 9A and we don't have any public transportation between Battery Park and 14th Street. I think that's a problem. I think that there are turnouts that exist, and I agree that 9A needs to be redesigned. Because with Brad Hoylman's, I just, my glasses talk to me and all of a sudden somebody's leaving me a message. So 9A's redesign needs to incorporate this bus lane. It's ridiculous that we have tens of thousands of people visiting the park and we have no public transportation way to get there. We have to figure it out. And I will share the resolution and we can use that as a jumping board.
So, go ahead and share it, and you can share it with me right now. I'll read sections of it out, and if we all agree, then we can vote and move on. Mary?
I was just gonna share a couple of observations because the lay-by at Pier 25 had a bus stop when Lilac first moved there in 2011. I think it's been rerouted to a street inland of West Street because I haven't seen buses stopping there. I think it still says no standing, even though it's used for drop-offs. And the other thing is that Pier 26 did not originally have one, but with plans for the estuarium, my understanding was the park actually worked with state DOT to add a lay-by there. And there probably are some places where one could still be carved out, but because they certainly found space there. That's all.
I don't think anybody wants to diminish any of the 1 square foot of parkland that we have. I think, you know, it was so hard for it to keep, but I do think that with the redesign of 9A and the size of the medians that we have and the opportunities that we have for resiliency and other things that they're looking at, that if we don't put a stake in the ground now, DOT is not well known, especially state DOT, for pivots and flexibility and elasticity would not necessarily be their strong suit. So that's where my thoughts are. Anybody else online want to contribute? Okay, anybody else in the room? So conceptually, do we want to do a resolution this evening that we vote on and that we get drafted? And if so, then we'll pass it by, or we will draft it and vote on it next meeting. Thoughts, comments?
If we're considering an October meeting, then that would be timely, yes, so that everybody has a chance to review it and put some thought into it. If not, then
I know that we were definitely thinking a November meeting. I wasn't so sure I didn't plan on an October meeting necessarily, only because the amount of holidays that there are in October. It's a really crazy month, but so
the Hudson Yards, the west zoning of that mega development there is pretty timely, but you know, I'll leave it up to the chairs.
I mean, if we could have that, I mean, we'd have to also confirm a date for ourselves and with related if we're asking them to present, which we haven't done yet, but we could have that and this. I mean, I would think we could make a motion on this letter. I feel like it's not that controversial, but I also have not been particularly steeped in this. So if others, particularly Dan, you have language, if you
I'm not sure if I can share it because it was in committee at CB2 and it's not ratified yet. So I'd love to, but I can't until Thursday.
Well, here's the fun thing. We can, since you sit here, it doesn't have to identically match CB2. We can do something that's crafted on our own, right? And use whatever language that we feel is appropriate for the trust and do an advisory council letter and resolution. That's slightly different than CB2 because you'll have different thoughts as well.
I'll go ahead and just copy paste it out of the format and put it in a text file and I'll share it with the advisory council.
Do you have any language you want to do tonight? And then we can just.
No, I will copy it because I think it hits on all the points we've just talked about. It talks about Tom's point of the history of 9A. It talks about where we've come from, where we are today. It talks about there's no existing buses, and it says that there are buses, but they happen to be tour buses. And it also talks about the redesign, which is taken out of the actual resolution, but is appropriate for this discussion.
think if we used all of that with you know, a tailored note that says the advisory council does not want to lose 1 square inch of park space, and we call on DOT to include in their study with everything else, a way to incorporate mass transit access through buses along West Street without compromising public space and parkland.
I think that's like almost the resolution, I think.
Right.
Instead of saying we don't want to lose any park space, we want to gain some park space out of this redesign of Route 9A to the extent possible. So, you know, we're looking at it as a way to enhance both access to and use of the park. So mass transit is part of it.
There's a little more legalities, like they can't, I don't think DOT can give us land.
No, they can give it up.
But
That's okay,
that's
too
a-
technical.
I think
Thanks.
that's a discussion that
got
we can have
Mhm.
when they talk to us about what they're thinking. Because they could come back and say, you know what, we've decided that, we're gonna make your bike way wider, but we can't lose any car traffic. I mean, you don't know what they're gonna say. Yeah. Yes?
Hi, I'm brand new, so I apologize if I'm covering previously tread ground, but 2 things. One, what is the timing of when either of the DOTs might take action? How timely is this? And second, if they're doing a study, again, I'm brand new, but I'm wondering how much is known about where people are coming from, what the pain points are. Is it the northern parts of the park? Is it the southern? You know, are they coming from 14th Street or other subway stops? We need to know all that information. We might already, just so that that's incorporated into whatever plans either of the DOTs develop.
The study is supposed to be a 2-year study, according to the letter, and they're supposed to reach out to partner organizations, so that is information that they can get from they should be talking to the trust, they should be talking to the advisory council. And, you know, part and parcel to the problem is, since there's very limited ways to get there from here, as they say, it starts to become a build it and they will come model, even if it's a temporary, hey, we can now do this. With the amount of ferries that we have added all around in the city, the one thing that we haven't managed to do is get people from point A to point B. So if you can take a ferry boat ride from Jersey over to here, you know, into Lower Manhattan, then you can't get from Lower Manhattan to Pier 52nd.
The original plan had water taxi stops for smaller craft at several locations, but they always do origin to destination studies.
Yeah.
They stop traffic, ask them where you're coming from, where you're going to, so they can get an idea of volumes of traffic.
Okay. Anybody else? Robert Perani.
Yeah, thanks. It's great, and it sounds great to do a letter. I guess I had a kind of similar question in terms of the timing of the letter, and the kind of framing that you guys just laid out. It seems to me that in the course of the study, they're going to identify a series of possibilities and a series of desires, and then the inevitable trade-offs and kind of the limited space. And I'm not sure, you know, I think, you know, it's definitely great to improve bus traffic or bus transit to the park. You know, I think we also have concerns about, you know, mobility for bikes and pedestrians, you know, Tom's point on increasing park space, potential the idea of limiting traffic coming down the West Side Highway. You know, I guess I think if we're laying this out at this stage in their planning process to indicate the kinds of issues we'd like to see them address, it'd be great to kind of lay out that series of objectives as opposed to just on the bus side of things.
I've already sent a letter. A year ago, we asked for the study about the transportation modes and everything that they have in there already. So,
Yep.
And the letter says that they're looking at all of that. So I don't, me personally, feel like we need to beat the dead horse on what they've already said they're gonna do, but they have not said anything about adding transit access. And that's a huge part of what we want looking ahead, I would assume, is easier access in and out of the park.
No, that's a fair point, Tammy. I think, you know, maybe just referring to our early, you know, people at DOT change all the time. Who knows who read that previous letter? where it is, you know, so I would say maybe just refer to it and that way it kind of covers, just reminds them that we have these other interests as well.
Go ahead, Jessica.
Maybe, can I make a motion that we would write a letter that would reference the previously sent letter, reiterating your point, indicating that we are grateful and excited for that the study will be kicking off, that we want to be sure that we are included as a key informant in that study throughout the 2-year process, and that importantly, we've not seen reference to increased transportation, public transportation options, and want to be sure that that's a focus.
That sounds
I'll
great.
second that.
As called, it's second. Everybody agree?
Yep.
Are there any abstentions? Any no's? Seeing no recusal? Oh, great. Fantastic. So that rolls and we will get that going and done. Fantastic. Thanks, everybody. All right, we have a large amount of presentations simply because we haven't seen anybody since June. So Robert, I know you have different program people who are going to speak. And so let's get it kicked. Okay. But, oh, wait, sorry, I forgot one, darn it.
What was
Battery Park City. So there is a meeting tomorrow night. It is a public hearing. They will lay out the draft environmental impact statement that they're doing for the entire project. It's down at Stuyvesant High School. There is a Zoom feature. I will tell you that the last time they did this, the Zoom feature was not fantastic and robust. We have asked them to make sure that it is dynamic and stable. They're in a high school, that's all I'm gonna say. So if you really want to speak up, I encourage you to go in person. But the other part about that is, Robert, what we need to know, and I am sorry that, you know, Rashi's not with us any longer, but we really need to know what Hudson River Park Trust has said.
So we are working on our comments. It is still going through its internal process. For folks online, this is the Battery Park City Resiliency Project. They have their DEIS, which was recently released. As Karen said, there's a meeting tomorrow where they are both doing a presentation on it and taking public comment. You have until I believe it's October 2nd or 7th, October 7th to submit comments. I included the information on both accessing on how to find the information for tomorrow's meeting and how to comment in our advisory council report. We are still working on our formal comments. I will certainly share them with the advisory council when we are done. It is a very long technical document and it takes a lot of running through for us to move it through internally for it. I did want to just come and I can share some of our initial pieces that we have, just to like feed you guys some food for thought as you are looking at it and shaping your own comments on it. Folks will know, obviously, we've had a lot of conversations with BPCA. We've reported on this for, I think, a year now, more, a lot of back and forth with them about it, a lot of technical questions in both directions for it. There are sort of four pieces of impact that I from this that I want to just kind of flag for folks and make sure folks know that, you know, we are certainly looking at, and you guys are obviously can shape your own comments on it. So there's sort of the on-land impacts, the in-water impacts, both of those for construction and both of those kind of permanently. And there are so those are kind of this piece. There's on-land impacts during and after construction, in-water impacts during and after construction. On land, in particular, folks will see in the DEIS that there is a substantial amount of construction right at the intersection of the southern portion of Hudson River Park and Battery Park City. That is where they are putting in substantial infrastructure. It is where their connection point is our impact. We are, in the grand scheme of this project, a very small site comparatively to the scale of what Battery Park City is doing at large. For us, it is obviously still quite big. With that, there is going to be a pretty substantial multi-year impact on that southern piece of the park. So the basketball court, inside the basketball court south, there's going to be a substantial impact for multiple years as part of it. We are still waiting some more information, in particular, for sort of what the permanent impacts will be. There's some DEP infrastructure that they are connecting into. They have to be able to get to. They have to dig up that portion of the park, then they have to restore it. We know from our own interactions with DEP, at Gansevoort and in other places, there will likely be restrictions on what can go back when they are done. Whether it is weights, whether they need access, whether there has to be a manhole. We don't know that yet. It is something that the BPCA is working with DEP. Sorry, I'm gonna muddle my acronyms here. We know that they are doing it. We are hopeful for more information for it, for our interest, and we have been upfront about this. We've said it before, and we will say it again. Our interest is trying to make sure that whatever is the impact is on the far end, whatever has to be there built, really maintains that park-like feel, and in particular is well designed, kind of meets our standards of design. We think we have very high standards of design generally, and we want to make sure that it maintains a green park-like feel to the greatest extent possible. With that, we know that there have to be manhole spaces. We know you have to have field access infrastructure. It's nothing unfamiliar. We certainly have another place in the park. We know it can be designed well. We are also looking at to make sure that that connection between Hudson River Park and Battery Park City, particularly with the new swoop, with the softening of that curve, that we think will actually improve the flow of traffic. We want to make sure that that is also both hits our design, our design standards is well designed, and then also really is integrated. They have slightly different designs specs than we do for what they look for, and we want to make sure that there's a high quality meeting of them. And that we are, that it works for both of us. Certainly maintenance is one of those things that we're looking forward. As they're expanding it, we want to make sure that there's a plan for the additional maintenance burden that comes with it. We are also, and this is on the online piece of this, with the construction itself, the traffic. It is a heavily used corridor. There it is both for bikes and for pedestrians. It is heavily well trafficked. If you really have to tear that up, and both pedestrians and bikes have to be detoured, we want to make sure that it is a safe play. Some of this will come later. Some of this will come at construction. Some of this will come in contact with state DOT and city DOT down the road as part of construction pieces. But it is something that we are paying attention to as part of it. We are in the water. We had reported before that we had given them permission to move forward with an application for that greater curve, so a slightly more encroachment into the sanctuary with their platform. We think it's going to be part of it. It may include in water construction, whether it is a tile or others, it's over water. And then similarly during construction with that, there is going to be impacts to that pavement. So within that area, there's going to be impacts. It will impact the marina in particular for some period of time, and that's also something we're really looking at. And this is part of it, there is DEIS and the EIS, and there's this environmental study, which it has a very specific scope, what is studied, how it is, what is treated as there. And then down the road, there will also be, in particular, our construction permit. When someone has a footprint in the park, they have to get a construction permit from us. And then so some of these things may be addressed in that. The detours, some of the signage, some of the restoration work will be addressed in that, not necessarily here. We know that in advance, but it is something that we are sort of looking at and trying to consider about where things go for it. So those are some of the things that have come up for us so far. As I said, for our teams are still looking at it. We may have others, we may have other comments. We may have additional things that we add. We may polish we'll certainly be polishing sort of what that is as we write it up. And I will share that letter with you when we have it.
So, thank you. I will also say that the Battery Park City Authority said that they would take additional comment, but again, the official deadline is October 7th. So if we have something we want to say or add as the advisory council, or we want to say something to the trust, now is kind of the time to do it. On the screen, Mary, I'll come to you in just 1 second, is the planned where they are within the Hudson River Park zone. You can see and where they have 91 and 17. If you give me just a moment after Mary, while Mary's talking, I'm going to stop share and find those two so I can share those on the screen. Go ahead, Mary.
Thanks. One thing I at least have been asking, a couple other people were interested in, that we've never got answered, is if there's actually going to be a loss to the number of moorings in the mooring field. Do you know?
Yeah, that's one of those things that we don't know yet. We know that there's going to be impact and likely definitely during construction. there will have to be. We don't quite know yet on the sort of permanent, or the permanent aspect of it.
We can ask and we can say that the question starts to become, as the advisory council, Mary, are we saying that we do not want to lose any moorings?
Yeah, I just posted the resolution that I'd given to the executive committee that Tom Fox and I composed after we got the presentation from the BPCA resiliency team, where it's pretty basic. We're just asking that the trust do its best to minimize the impact of the resiliency project on the estuarine sanctuary and the amount of property given over to it, including that no moorings are lost from the Pier 25 marina.
Sounds pretty straightforward to me, and we should definitely, I think we need to do a letter and be on record. I think our note goes, we are advisory council, so we go to the trust,
Right.
saying this is an important part of what we feel. I'm not sure if everybody recognizes that just south of the bikeway and south of the basketball field will be a brand new building that they're constructing, which will be a pump house on the side of Stuyvesant. That's fairly large.
Outside the park.
Yes,
Outside
but
the park.
we'll be pumping the water from the resiliency project into the park through NCM 073, the sewer outfall between Pier 25 and Battery Park City, which has no circulation. So they're going to be adding effluent from the street with, what they say, rainwater, but that includes detritus and car oil and other things. And they're going to be flushing it into the Hudson River Park. What they should be doing is sending it to a treatment plant rather than putting it into our estuary. Myself, that's my personal opinion. I think it's shared by others. So you
I
should be
would
aware
hope
of that.
I would hope that you're going to speak up at the meeting
Oh,
tomorrow.
yeah, I've already sent them comments. And the city club is going to send in comments as well.
Anybody else? So I think we raised both the concern, somebody's hand is up. Robert.
Yeah. Hi, thanks. I just want to kind of second Tom, the issue that Tom, has done a great job raising on the outfall. I'm curious if Hudson River Park Trust was going to, I don't know if you can share, Robert, if you're going to be able to sort of talk about that as well. And then just a factual question, have they ever, I know we asked them this, have they ever said how much of the property of Hudson River Park they're going to need for their construction project? I know it was, they didn't talk about that in the presentation, at least the one I went to.
So I'm gonna answer for second question first. So they are still working on the specific construction plans as they dial it in. As they get closer, they'll have to discover specific plans. Our understanding at the moment, and this is what working understanding is basically that lawn panel south of the basketball court to the intersection. So that final piece. Whether or not that can be shrunk in some way, whether some of that can be used as a detour, not necessarily for construction, is a little bit to be determined for us. And from that, based on their needs as they figure out their plans, what actually is approved, what their actual construction plan is, those sorts of things. To the first question, and this goes to Tom's piece earlier. So there is currently the CSO, combined sewer overflow within the park. We know in particular, right, it is something that we have done to raise awareness about CSOs. We are the final few feet of a pipe. And it is not something that we are able to, the park is able to stop, right? The sewage is created inland. They have all fairly large swaths that they pull from for it. Those are pieces of it. It's part of a much larger network for it. Certainly it is here, whether or not, and Tom, I think to your question, whether or not it is better for there not to be a seawall and for whatever they are what they will be taking from rain and pumping in here. It's better if it is flooded. And the other pieces that go on with that, I think, are great questions. Definitely things that you guys can and should raise with Battery Park City. They are not for us to sort of independently say. Battery Park City, in the first instance, should answer it, follow the DEC, which is the regulator on sort of all things here. We have a lot of things that pass through the park that are part of city and state policy. We are 4 miles to the west side. It's obviously a conversation we've had before, I'm sure we'll have again in the future, but certainly for it, it is a good question to go along with it. But it is that there are specifics on that, and we cannot independently sort of determine the sewage flows, the people, the populations, all the pieces that go into it are like far outside of us and the park.
That would not be my desire for you to comment on that.
I
It
think
would
our-
be my desire that you ask them to study the impacts of this effluent and ask them why, with a mile of the river, 900 feet out, why don't they pump it out into the main part of the river instead of into our estuary? That's a simple question.
I think in the DEIS, they did look for which MSO they could hook to. And the issue, if I remember from the presentations, is that the main pinch point that caused damage in Lower Manhattan is the Chamber Street.
Chambers.
Right, Chamber Street and at the very, very bottom. I'm not gonna go over the west
Right,
side stuff,
yeah.
right? And Chamber Street is the major problem. So they're gonna build out to try and fix Chamber Street. They have to find a place to do a pump station. And there's limited real estate as to where they could do it. So the final location that they landed on was that space next to Stuyvesant that's just south. That left them with only one spot, one pipe, and so that's the pipe that I get
Yeah,
it, but I do
Not
think,
that one existing pipe. They're building that thing out. If they're building it out, then they're doing construction. They could run the pipe right out instead of into our estuary, right out into the river where it would have minimal impact. That's all.
so it's a question to ask, I
Yeah.
think, is to have them all take a look at it. Or I'm pretty sure that's not a treatment plant, it's just a pump.
Right, that's what it is,
Site
just
that's a-
flushing stuff
yeah.
out. And,
Which is
and if
only
not,
it's not a daily thing, it's only in terms of massive storm and rainfall and.
well, if not,
Yeah.
there are rich neighbors to the south. And if you owned a home and somebody was pumping effluent into your property, you would ask your rich neighbors in the house in the south to mitigate that. So if they can't change the pipe, then give us some funding to protect and enhance the rest of the estuary, something, you know?
That is, Tom, I think that is a great line of questioning on it. I think, and I want to do, so effectively, when we get done this, we have definitely part of this project, between us, council, community board, others, have really questioned a lot for BPCA, sort of what is the impact? I will note very successfully collectively, in terms of the original plan for the wall with the much
Great
northern
job.
alignment,
Right,
which went along the bikeway and all that. Collectively, we really all ask the question, like, is this really what you need? Is this impact absolutely what is necessary, or are you doing it to save some money and do it? And lo and behold, the alignment has changed. It is now Chamber Street. It is different, successfully. So, and it is certainly a piece. So our engineers have, certainly, and this is part of some of our conversations with them, looked at what is in the park, what is the infrastructure that is being put in the park itself. And I think they have, our engineers can feel comfortable that like what they are planning within the park, the piping they're planning in the park is really is actually necessary for the ends that they're trying to meet. I think changing the ends and moving it from here, from this outfall to a different outfall, something else that is a much larger piece.
Mhm.
And we definitely agree is a question. I will say it is something that, yes, it is when we have had these types of projects in before, and I will, Gateway is in part of an example, major public infrastructure project, excellent public good, absolutely necessary, and we did get mitigation for it. And so it is certainly something that is on our minds. I think particularly for this in terms of the community pieces and others, it is something that you guys may be able to advocate for in different ways than we are able to as an agency in this. But I think it is an excellent question for you guys to pursue.
We're speaking for the fish and the habitat.
Yeah, I think that so. Let's just talk about where our concerns are. Right? The potential impact on the water quality and the habitat from the CSO discharges, right? And I'm taking it from Tom's testimony, right? And basically, we note that it's an area that has poor water circulation, a variety of on-water activities from sailing and nearby kayaking. And so our call on this for the DEIS is to consider an alternate water runoff location. Right? We want them to consider an
And
alternate.
or a mitigation for the impact it will have to the estuary. You should give them an option, because that's going to be extremely expensive. So we'll take the money, honey, if we can mitigate it in some way, shape, or form. But it's hard to mitigate dirty water coming into an estuarine sanctuary.
But in this phase, it's the DEIS, so we're just asking them to study it. So
Yeah.
right now, it's please study
Correct.
the impact,
Yes.
and then we'll get to the point of,
Mhm.
you've studied it, you've revealed it's negative, and therefore we
Yeah, we need
recommend.
mitigation.
Well,
Correct.
yeah, study, secondarily study and consider the additional costs needed to protect the estuarine sanctuary.
Tammy, just one addition to your great formulation, which is, it also, the floatables that'll be discharged from the outfall after a flood event are also something that the park has to deal with from a maintenance point of view, and they're gonna have to run the waste shark more often to collect whatever stuff comes out. So that'd be something to, it's the ecology, but also the recreational use as well.
Right, so it's study and consider additional costs needed to protect and mitigate effects on the Hudson River Park estuarine sanctuary. And we definitely also want to put in here, Deputy Advisor Council strongly believes we do not want to lose any moorings. But, and I kind of wonder whether or not, whether or not funding could be made through this process as long as they're going in to fix some of the moorings that are broken. But I know that's supposed to be the.
Let's say they broke them.
They reduced the number of moorings a long time ago because a lot of them were broken.
Right, so, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be fixed, right? Maybe we can enhance and enliven the moorings and.
I think that's out of the scope of this. We just don't want the resiliency project to reduce the space.
Gotcha.
And I actually think you could say stronger words about protecting the estuary. We object to releasing untreated water into our estuarine sanctuary. So I would use the word object, frankly.
Okay.
I don't think we have to be so nice.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
Is the intent for this letter to come to us, or is it intent that the advisory council submitting this to Battery Park City directly?
I
So
think,
it's on their formal record that they have to respond to.
Should go
I
to
think
both.
both. I think we send it to you because this is our feelings. We are your advisory council. And these are the things that we want you to put in your agency response. And then in case you can't, don't, or won't, we also have a copy to the Battery Park City Authority as our official comment.
They do have to review all those submissions and respond to as part of the DEIS process.
Wendy?
I was gonna suggest maybe a CC rather than addressing it to the trust directly. Because that does change the tone in some of the points a little bit, what do you think?
So sending it to the BPCA with a CC to the trust to include. I'm okay with anything that the council decides.
And if Tracy wouldn't mind, I think Assemblymember Glick is the chair of the Environmental Conservation Committee, so CCing her would be appropriate as well.
Although it is like with the similar level.
No,
The estuary is,
it is. He stops at the end of Chambers Street.
No,
There's one block,
it's one
we
block.
looked at the map.
Here's one block.
well, as the chair of the Environmental Conservation Committee, that's her turf. That's all.
I go with my executive committee. Thank you. Okay. So we're gonna send a letter with a CC.
And hey, Tammy, I might have missed this over Zoom, but would you copy New York State DEC as well?
Yeah, no, that's a great.
And and then one other just kind of, kind of wonkish, the estuarine sanctuary would be considered an environmentally sensitive water body under kind of that's the way Clean Water Act, and when New York City DEP, goes for permits, they would, so if you use those language, that's kind of a trigger for New York State and EPA if an area is considered environmentally sensitive or a water body is considered environmentally sensitive.
That sounds great. I also think that we, as an advisory council, might support the trust in saying that anything that the Battery Park City Authority does to change the nature also comes with repair and maintenance funding,
Long term.
long term. Anybody have any objections to that? I know.
Anything to touch. Well, as far as they go.
Okay, gotcha. So, okay. Gotcha. Anything else from anyone else? Dan, I think you're sharing or somebody's sharing. Oh, you were
ready?
Yeah.
Ready?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't do my time. Do I need a motion on that, or I don't hear anybody saying no. Motion?
Wait, does a motion help with tomorrow, just to have it as an official statement from?
It's an official statement, so then it's a letter that's signed by the three chairs, yeah. So that's a motion. I think just seconded it. Is everybody in agreement? Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, motion passes. Thank you, everybody.
All right, so Hudson River Park Advisory Council, this is the trust report. It has been a busy few months. It is our high season here in the summer. We are short on time with that great, excellent discussion. So we are going to always, as we do, move very quickly. My first up, I'm going to turn it over to Andrew Ronan and Maggie Curtis from our public programs team, who are going to talk to you about some of the great programs that we have going on for this summer.
Thank you, Robert. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us here this evening. It has been a very busy summer season. Maggie and I are going to walk you through it, let you know what we were able to do. 133 events so far, with a few more coming up this fall, with over 93,000 people attending them. So busy is an understatement. We kicked off our season kind of with a season preview, engaged with the folks at Improv Everywhere, who did an amazing event, their MP3 experiment where everybody listens to directions on MP3s on their earphones, and this does all sorts of crazy things throughout the pier, whether they were dancing or playing games or sitting down and playing recorders. 1,600 people enjoyed with that. Our Healthy on the Hudson series, which you know is very popular, was as popular as ever this year. We really worked to diversify our offerings and engaged some very unique and different types of fitness modalities. This is bike yoga, where your bike is functions like your yoga blocks or your strap or whatever other yoga implement you may use. And our Sunset on the Hudson series, which got cut down to 5 events this year, but we doubled up in terms of audience and in terms of offerings, and ended the year with a very special Pride on the Pier celebration featuring the original Village People cowboy Randy Jones, not pictured here with the Bad Judies, who also performed with him. And he actually screened the YMCA video that we all know and love, which was shot in and around what is now Hudson River Park. So it was fun to really see people seeing that in the space where it was shot at the time. It was a really fun day. I'm going to hand it over to Maggie.
Yeah, so we also had West Side Fest. We worked with the West Side Cultural Network, a bunch of other organizations on the West Side for that. We unfortunately had to cancel Saturday programming, but Sunday went forward and we had around 400 folks. We also had our Blues Barbecue Festival. We had a little over 11,000 attendees. We had 2 stages. We activated a whole bunch of new things this year. So we had the Hot Sauce Alley, We had the Lapiso instrument petting zoo, and we had a dance floor with free dance lessons on every hour. We also had Broadway by the Boardwalk this year. This was a new offering up at Clinton Cove. This was Mondays when Broadway is dark. We bring your favorite stars and they perform some of their hits and also some of their other music that they do personally. So I think our highest attendance was a little over 2,000.
2,200, yeah.
Yeah, which is the highest we've seen for any programming at Clinton Cove. So we're super excited to activate that. And then we also programmed up at Pier 97. We did Blues by the Boardwalk. They do our second stage at Blues Barbecue every single year. So we worked with Jazz Foundation of America to do programming up there. It steadily grew and we were able to really activate that new space in an exciting way. We also had Jazz at Pier 84, which has continued on and been a really strong series. We saw significant growth this year, and we also had an unexpected concert that we saw really great numbers for with minimal advertising and support. We also started a new series this year. It's called Matinee Music. It's midday. It's out at 14th Street Park. It's an opportunity for people to come and see music during their lunch period. We had a opening this season, 3 sessions in May, and now we're doing a sort of welcome into fall, 3 sessions in September. The next one is next Wednesday. And then I'll turn it back to you.
Sure, and our growing participatory dance programming really grew this year as well. With our usual offerings like Bollywood and Bhangra, which actually just started last weekend.
Yeah.
And will be continuing through the fall. A few new folks and our very popular Sunset Salsa brought the same numbers of people out it did previously. And relatively new this year is an expanded partnership with Dance's Life. They're a very, how would you describe Dance's Life?
They're queer Latin hustle. They're a really great group. We did the kickoff event with Ladies of Hip Hop. And those numbers have also been steadily growing. Our last one was about 2,000. Yeah, we're super excited about that.
And a lot of this, our dance series seemed to have found a home up here 76, and 76 has grown with a lot more free public programming that we're producing this year, or partnering on other things like the very successful High Rocks global fitness sensation came and did their sort of premiere New York City event on 76. People would pay to enter and compete in it, but the rest of the festival was open to the public. So folks enjoyed cheering on their favorite High Rocks athlete and such like that. Also in 76, the slightly more unique Unicycle Festival brought unicycle basketball and other fun unicycle things, and learn to ride classes to 76 as well. And we just came away with the New York Latin Food Festival, sort of Latin spin on the larger food festival idea, with amazing vendors and amazing arts and cultural components, and 25,000 people across the 2 days attended, which I think is a record overall for us. Still ahead coming up, Healthy on the Hudson continues. You can find out more at hudsonriverpark.org/events. Bollywood and Bhangra as well, like we said, just started. We're doing a Festival of Lights celebrating Diwali in the park, Saturday, October 26th at Pier 63. And then Pumpkin Smash, please bring pumpkins, Saturday, November 2nd, 11 a.m. Pier 84.
Rick can be jealous because he never gets around.
I've gotten it once or twice. I just want to say, particularly as Gary's going up here, one of the things we look to do with our programming is to try to make sure we're using it to attract people to lower utilized or underutilized portions of the park. It goes back to Conservancy Days to really help convince people that the West Side could be a park. That's why you see a pretty heavy focus on 76, which really plays a fairly large concrete expanse. We do really think very thoughtful about making sure we're programming across all of our 4 miles, and that we're really utilizing our spaces in different ways. And then one of our other key components is to make sure that we are trying to create a really welcoming park for sort of all communities. And that's why you see a focus on some of our on some really diverse cultural offerings, whether it be Ladies of Hip Hop or Sunset Salsa or Latin Food Festival, Bollywood and Bhangra. Is really trying to make sure that we are expanding the audience of the park and really trying to use it to attract folks to help make sure that they too feel welcome here in the park. Pride Sunday, we certainly work on Juneteenth, those sorts of things, trying to make sure that we are creating that welcoming environment throughout the 4 miles for it. Again, with a heavy eye on some of the underutilized areas of the park. Gary.
Are there any pictures of you on a unicycle?
I might actually pay for that one. Carrie, welcome.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm Carrie Roble. I'm VP of Estuarine Education with the Parks River Project. I'm going to share on some of our programming from the summer. So we kicked off our season with Submerge Marine Science Festival. We moved this festival from the fall to May in effort to engage more students and teachers. We're getting feedback that September is way too hard for them to plan for field trips. And we got the numbers. So on Friday of this 2-day festival, 1,000 students and teachers came. And then on Saturday, we hosted 4,000 people from the community. And at this year's event, we had more wildlife than ever, tons of hands-on science, and it's all thanks to our many partners. So we had over 50 environmental partners that actually provide exhibits, and BMCC was there, Dallas was there, helping us to bring science to our community. Our field trips, we are right now in our fall field trip season. We actually kicked it off with a program with BMCC. And this year we launched Salt Marsh Science at Gansevoort Peninsula. It's always a joy to use new sites in the park as our outdoor classroom and field site. Also, our wet lab wildlife continues to be hugely popular. And then shoreline ecology, getting students to think about living shoreline, the impacts of climate and resiliency in these waterfront urban areas. So we had into 2024 so far, again, we still have fall and winter, but 3,500 students join our programs. 55% are from Title I schools, and our student groups are from all 5 boroughs. Our public programs also are off to a great start. We do programs now year round. So far in our public programs, we've served 6,000 people. And we saw more wet lab look-in visitors than ever. The Liberty Cruises kind of had a really nice spillover effect. And we're obviously answering a lot of directional questions too. We've used it in our advantage. But right here at the Discovery Tank, our guided galleries, they're offering monthly themes. If you walked over, you'd see that this month is Climate Month. And so in addition to the tech and games that you can explore, we have these ways to also look at our pollinators or to think about climate and your role in making pledges for improving climate in our future. We also were excited to launch pop-up programs at Pier 26 Science Playground. The Sturgeon Playground has been a huge splash, and we're also bringing new tech to our shoreline cleanups. We've been hosting them for 12 years, so it's been really fun to welcome Gulp, our waste shark, a remote operated drone that picks up that marine debris, to that program. The pop-ups have allowed us to bring, again, hands-on science, extend the story, help people understand the role of wildlife in our sanctuary to a playground space. And then in terms of habitat enhancement, so we're in year 3 of monitoring our Tribeca project. This was a project that went in the water in 2021. And I think these 3 pictures kind of speak to the 3 highlights from the season. One, we were super excited. We saw oyster spat this year. So that next generation of oysters seeding these enhancements. Also, these projects take a huge research team, many partners, university partners, Hudson River Foundation, nonprofit partners like BOP, to actually collect the data, analyze the data, and report on it publicly. And this year, we also added a fish survey element to the on-vessel part. So we'd pull up these gabions, we'd pull up our reef balls, and fish would be dropping out of it. So now we are collecting, we are identifying, we are recording all of the fish that are also falling out of these habitat enhancements, which was new to the research program this year. Then our second habitat enhancement project, both of these collectively have helped us to install over 35 million oysters to our sanctuary waters. But at Gansevoort, we launched our research program this year. So you see one of our research partners, Matt. He is with a sonar device that we're using to look at a very high resolution of the area. We're able to measure oyster height from that and percent coverage. We're able to see what species are using these structures as well. You can see we're also getting divers and using video. And then we seeded mini reef balls, ones that are a lot easier for our team just to handle, to bring ashore, and to invite the community to look at these oysters growing and also recruiting, hopefully, that next generation of spat. These were videos. This is a PDF, so it's not great. They honestly actually do look better than how murky this looks in this version. But you can see how this video would be able to enhance our identification and counting of fish. We are going to be using AI to also help us to ID and analyze that. And then this is just an example of that sonar. You can see the gabion down here. And if this was active, you'd see fish. This is an example of one, but in a still frame, swimming around the gabion. And those are some of the first use of these methods in our region. They have some really great benefits, but largely they're less invasive, and we're hoping to get comparable data so we can look at Tribeca and Gansevoort over time. And maybe they'll also allow us to have more capacity, extend research of these habitat structures for longer. I wanted to emphasize that we've done a lot of outreach to foster research partnerships to CUNY, to local universities and colleges. And this year, we were really proud to share that we worked with 14 different universities and 20 different research partners. A couple of ways we've been working with them is in 2023, we launched what we're trialing the name of, the CUNY Research Alliance. It was a funding initiative where we gave 10K grants to 2 research projects. This is money through CUNY. And the program continued this year. We're working with 2 different labs. One is Dr. Muth's lab at Brooklyn College. They're looking at microplastics, and they're looking at antibiotic resistant genes within our microbial communities. And then we also are working with another lab at Brooklyn College and a PhD student, James Hurlin, and he's looking at wave exposure and the influence on reef health and reef development over time at Gansevoort. But then a snapshot of some of those other research partners. So this was a really fun program. We worked with NOAA, Dr. Ashok Deshpande, one of the kind of leading scientists on microplastics in our region, and they have a fellowship program. So Kalani James was looking at absorption of contaminants on different microplastics and polymer types. This shows all the kind of muddy work that we do with looking at nekton populations or fish in our habitat areas and how they're influenced by adding these structures. And then the project over there is Dr. Allison Fitzgerald with some of her students from New Jersey City University. And she's looking at the relationship between sessile organisms, other organisms that settle on oyster shell or hard substrate, and how it influences oyster recruitment or that next generation of oysters. And so just to wrap up, I wanted to also reiterate these great programs that are coming up. So we're culminating our season. We'll have release of the fishes in October 23rd. It's a Wednesday. And then as Maggie and Andrew are saying, please join us at Pumpkin Smash on November 2nd. And thank you, everyone.
So thank you all for that. As you can see, it's been a jam-packed summer. We have a lot going on. I have 6 other pages of to report through in the next 9 minutes.
Do we want to let Chris go through for a safety update for you?
Sure, Chris, go ahead. We'll start there.
All right, I'll go quick. Basically, like was mentioned, overall in the park, crime is down in all categories. We had a great summer. Matching we have 4 precincts that surround us, and 3 of them it's down in Midtown North, which is north of 42nd Street. Their crime's up there, but in the park we're down there. So happy to report that. One thing we did see, we looked at last year, we saw a lot of disorderly groups that we're having problems with, mostly young kids. We don't have that this year, but we have seen an increase in disorderly or emotionally disturbed individuals in the park, a significant increase. It's something we're dealing with. Two such incidents were serious. One on October 27th, an emotionally disturbed person was sleeping on the gangway on the overnight at Little Island. As the PEP officers approached him, they said, "Hello, how are you?" So he jumped up immediately, assaulted the two officers, ran away. They both sustained injuries, not serious. He was unapprehended. 2 nights later, NYPD encountered him on a trespass. He assaulted 2 NYPD officers, but was taken into custody. And he was indicted by a grand jury. He's being held now. Another incident, not as serious. On September 11th, one of our horticulture staff was cutting the lawn on a ride-on lawnmower in the lawn bowl, and there was a person sleeping there. And as he approached him, asked him to wake him up, he jumped up, tried to attack him. He was throwing objects at him, throwing his shoes and other things off the ground. More importantly, he was on a ride-on lawnmower, and he was chasing him, and that was a danger in itself. PEP was called. PEP approached him. He was clearly emotionally disturbed. They took him into custody and sent him for a psychiatric evaluation. While crime is down overall, I mentioned to the safety committee, we did have 4 bags, chain snatches and bag snatches in the month of August and September. These were mostly on the bikeway or on Pier 84 at the just next to the bikeway, and 3 of them involved people going by on bicycles and motor scooters. 2 people, one would snatch the bag, snatch the chain. It was part of a pattern that NYPD was seeing elsewhere in the city. On all those incidents, we were able to provide valuable video that if they didn't show the actual crime, we caught the perpetrators as they were leaving. NYPD was able to follow them throughout the city, picking them up on other cameras. All this helps a lot, and it does create, going forward, a deterrence, because eventually people know there's cameras out there and they try to avoid it. On July 24th, we hosted the 6th Precinct Build the Block program, Build the Block meeting at Pier 40. Those who don't know, it's basically the local sectors will have, usually every 2 or 3 months, they'll have a Build the Block meeting, and concerned citizens can come and communicate directly with their neighborhood community officers, and they can raise their concerns, they can hear what's going on. It's just a great way to build those relationships, and we have hosted them last summer too. So about once a year, we're hosting it here, and me and some of the PEP staff go to them wherever they have them, so. Was mentioned on the fire, on August 31st, the 26th Street Maintenance Building went on fire. I suspect, that may have been intentionally started. We have video of a person sleeping there. He wakes up off the bench, goes into the bushes. You don't see what he's doing, but he comes out later, and very shortly thereafter, we see smoke coming up. The fire marshals came around. I gave them the video. I went up to 26th Street. We went through the area with them. And I see who the person was sleeping on the bench, but he's not a regular in the park. And PEP's been provided with him. No one seems to know him, but we're keeping an eye out for him. I think that I'll wrap up so that's my report. But as most of you know, I had a serious assault on Sunday night or Monday morning, whatever you want. At 12:30, there was a female that was sitting on one of our park benches by herself. She was there for a little over an hour. There was a person that came up walking north on the Esplanade, snuck up behind her, attacked her from behind, attempted to sexually assault her. The whole encounter lasted about 55 seconds. Her phone was forcibly removed and thrown in the water. She resisted. She screamed. She wasn't physically hurt seriously, emotionally. She was. The perpetrator ran out of the park immediately. He went across West Street. A lot of this was caught on video, not the actual attack itself, because I always look at, where were the lights, where were the cameras? It was a great area. There were lights, it's 10 benches, 2 groups of 5 with lights in between them going up, camera facing right down in the area. Just that one particular bench has a nice hedge right next to it. I guess that's why she sat there. So you don't see that, but I see the heads popping up. You see him approach. and you see them run. So I was with Special Victims yesterday, and again, I spoke to them again today, and it's very helpful what we gave them. And see, I'll keep you an update on that. There was no update as of this meeting.
Anybody have any questions for Chris?
And on that, if anyone wants to speak to me about that in more detail, like I said, anytime, let me know.
Sorry, we sucked up the air in the room.
It's fine, you guys started late, so I'm gonna go a little over.
Yeah.
You tried, I go quick, come on.
You do.
I'm gonna go, I'm gonna speak slow enough that you can hear me, fast enough that we can keep this moving. So we obviously had a bunch of construction that went on over the course of the summer. We finished, wrapped up some projects. Pier 25 spray area is now complete. All the water features are active. We have repaved it. It is reopened. We are glad to be able to hit it in time for the first big July heat wave. I'm going to skip through some of these on the estuarium, and we're going to head south to north here. On the estuarium, we met with Community Board 1 to give them an update on some of where we are on it. I know some of the members of the Advisory Council were able to join for that conversation. It went well. We are right now looking at estimates for both the designers and construction managers based on the schematic design. As we continue to evolve that forward, we will have be working again to provide another update in the coming months as we sort of dial that in. I don't have a date or time yet. It's in process. At Pier 40, folks know we have ongoing repair work that we need to do there. The trust board in July approved a $25 million contract from Hudson Meridian Construction Group. They will be a CMS builder. So this is a model we used after Sandy. It's where you bring in a contractor to be able to do a lot of actually the subcontracting work again. So they are able to help keep that load off their design and construction team. They are in charge of making sure the work happens. It works really well for complex interlocking projects. So we need to do concrete work and sprinkler work and electric work and all the other pieces. You have to have someone who's in charge of making sure all those teams work together. So that's what this group will be. In particular, as I noted, they are doing a bunch of structural repairs as part of a parking inspection, both from both city and state laws, but also making sure sprinkler system work around the garage area. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of sprinklers. It's a long building that's not heated. It impacts everything from parking to will possibly have impacts on ball fields and all the other things that we have to interlock, trust operations, all of that. Gansevoort, the bathrooms opened in July. On 29th Street to 44th Street design, we had an initial meeting with Manhattan Community Board 4's Waterfront Parks and Environment Committee in July. We also, the design team is starting to meet with a bunch of the complex area people in this area. So that's Circle Line, Department of Transportation, DEC and the ferry terminal, a bunch of the interlocking uses there. The design team's really starting to get very deep on looking at property lines, uses, all those various things, curb cuts, all the technical stuff so they can make sure they really have a good understanding of the area. So as we enter into these future conversations about design, they are able to really help us understand how we can make sure that all the interlocking uses there in this area are able to be met while we are building out great new beautiful park. We are, and I'm gonna skip forward here. Andrew did not mention, we have some of our Learn to Bike programming, in particular at Pier 76 has been really successful. It was something that CB4 had identified early as part of when we received 76 as an interest. We've done a lot there. We had the unicycle festival, we had bike yoga. We work with Bike New York to expand our bike programming in that area for there. We have both children and adults. I'm going to skip a lot of it. We have two local community events. We're working with some of our community partners for the park coming up. One is, and we are waiting to confirm the date, I believe, the Chelsea Waterside Park Association, which I think is going to be on October 5th, where we're working with them to do a little Chelsea Waterside Park celebration. We'll have music, we have games, we have face painting, some other activities. We're also working with Friends of Pier 84 to do a very similar thing up there. This one is a little bit more kids focused, where we have Honk, which is a great group that does fun and games, music, crafts. I think we have a double Dutch instructor, guys. Is that right? I love what we get to do here. So we'll share both. I will share flyers for both. We hope you guys are able to make it and come out. These are fun, hyper local ones. We're really trying to make sure that we're celebrating our local community pieces for it. Andrew and his team, also under them, we had over 25,000 people in permanent events. You may see them run walks, birthday parties, sports fields, lots of things going on all the time. We've had fashion shows, we had athletic events, we had a whole world of things. People love using the park for it, particularly run walks. It's a hub for it. We are uniquely designed, so we're able to host a lot. We do our best to make sure that we are minimizing the impact. It's a tricky game on hosting things without overtaking any one area. So it's always a work in progress. We had 56 permittees for our summer field season for 4,200 hours on our sports field. This fall, Sir Boyle, who works under Andrew, does an amazing job at this. We have 72 different field permittees for 7,200 hours. So that's spread across our 7 fields, 72 different people given out in an hour-and-a-half increments for 7,200 hours. It's a very tricky Tetris. It is something we're really hard to do. We're really proud to do it. Winter season applications are now open. They are due October 7th. So you can do your BPCA comments and then also file for your field permit on the same day. Pride happened, Pride Sunday. This year was particularly complicated. As you guys know, it's a big event in the park. It's a huge piece for our operational team. Very difficult, particularly this year in the aftermath of July 4th. Overall, this year we had a curveball. There were thunder and lightning storms. Lightning storms blew through in the middle of it. It is one of those times where we had to evacuate the piers. And I think it was the first time we had to evacuate the piers in front of it. It is complicated. It is hard. People don't want to go. I was sitting there trying to get our emergency management operations alert out, and you can see when we called in our staff over the radios, we had folks who would not leave, and we eventually had to tell our staff, you have to evacuate, leave them. They actually followed our folks out. When all the radios go out and it screams, evacuate, evacuate, evacuate. They actually followed us out. So that went smoother than I was otherwise hoping. No one was injured. We were able to reopen the pier a few hours later, or the park a few hours later. It was all shut down with the NYPD. We also had 4th of July. You guys heard about it. It's generally very successful, generally very safe. Again, a huge planning exercise, an enormous amount for the park to take on. And we were able to make sure our attendants were able to do it. We were able to provide as much access as we could throughout the day before the NYPD shut down for safety reasons. But it was a safe, successful day. Pretty spectacular to see for those who were here on the west side. I'm going to skip some of this other stuff. We are working with New York City DOT on bikeway lights. We are doing our biannual bikeway light audit coming up. This again, we will go look at all our lights, make sure we alert whose light is whom. We have city DOT lights, we have state DOT lights, we have our own lights. So we try to help coordinate and do that as we are getting ready for the time change. It's a good time of year to make sure that we are doing it. Water will be going off on the 14th. We are actively working right now, and Rob's team, Rob's on here, but I'm not going to ask him to come up because you guys don't need another presenter. We are working on testing out small electric equipment. We have some electric lawnmowers, electric leaf blowers. It is not everything is commercial grade. They are not all great. We've had some of them whose batteries died, and we had to pull down their warranty within the first 2 months. So as we are trying to transition, move away from some more fossil fuel equipment, it's a work in progress. Something we're actively doing though. Our horticulture teams with that though hosted 26 different volunteer events with friends with over 900 volunteers, and they spent 105 hours cleaning graffiti. I think it would give you a fist of 4. So I'd like to do. That's down substantially from last year. Kristen did report. I have 3 more items. We had Pier 40 concessionaire New York Water Tours. Has overall gone well as they get entered in the park. That we have to work on wayfinding getting people around Pier 40 from across the street. We have a lot of tourists who are very there. You'll be surprised at the people we find on the roof looking for the boats. That's not where the boats are. But we are working on it. We did recently have a conflict on the waterway between one of the boats and some of a boat from BCB. We are taking it very seriously. We have to make sure all of our water users are able to work together. Safety is obviously the utmost priority. We have been able to talk to both of them. New York Water Tours is very aware of this. They are taking it very seriously. They are talking to our operators, and they are also engaging now directly with BCB to make sure that they are able to resolve the conflicts together directly as well as neighbors. So hopefully a successful outcome from what it was otherwise could have been a very serious incident. We have reported Chelsea Piers moving forward on some of their improvements. You'll see the construction that were promised in the lease. This was for the back walk as well as the southern Pier 58, the southern curve there to try to help people get to that waterway walk. And then finally, my last one here, City Vineyard has had, is down at Pier 26, has had issues with its drainage. There is some sink drainage, the clogs, that have had some gray water seepage, and particularly Ian has hit a downtown boathouse. They has soaked a wall in one of their offices. We all worked with them extensively on this. But we are doing it. They have done some cleanouts. They're now starting preventative maintenance. We are pushing very hard to make sure that they are staying on top of that. They had a CCTV inspection, and we're trying to make sure that we are figuring out, working with them, their contractors, our support to make sure that we are making a long-term solution so we can stop the problem at its root cause, not just continuing to do the preventative maintenance right now to try to stop it from recurring, but that we are making it so it cannot happen going forward. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Gail.
I have two quick questions. One is July 4th. I know you were nervous about maybe the grass and the wear and tear. So I wanted to know, was that an issue? From Macy's perspective, you cut a hard target, so that's probably good. They were they were feeling that, number one. Number two, I have a bill to make all fossil fuel go away for the blowers for the and I just said, no, not now, but I'd love to hear more about if that works to be electric and not.
Yeah, so on 4th of July, generally, yes, we will work really closely with the city who did some cleanup in some of the public viewing areas. As you said, Macy's, which had their footprint here for their concert, NBC, all those pieces was all from the park. We absolutely fought for every possible dollar that I could squeeze out of that. That is our goal, is our intent. If you're using the park, privatizing it, you should pay for the public for it. It generally went well. There was a lot of cleanup. I will say the NYPD shutdowns and the safety pieces that went on the park writ large were kind of struggled. We had shut down a lot of the park at 3 p.m. In fact, the majority of the park was closed by NYPD at 3 p.m. So it overall went well. The cleanup was not as intensive as we would have feared, in part because we fought tooth and nail for additional resources from the city, from Macy's, from others. So yeah, it went okay from our perspective.
Because I know they're looking for 2026. Where is it going to be? And it's going to be even bigger and more massive. So I assume you know all that.
I know you all love it. My personal opinion is I'd love to gift it back to the east side. It is spectacular and beautiful. And give it back to state and city parks. But yes. 2026, we also will be having sale for 250. It will likely, my understanding, be everywhere. So we will be here, they will be there. We love Sailor 4th, we love boats here in the park. We'll have a bunch of their festival footprint also here. So it is a work in progress. Certainly a lot of conversations happening in part because 3 p.m. shutdowns from NYPD and Sail 4th's all-day festival are not in their face compatible in the park. So it's a work that we are working hard to talk to people about it. On the leaf blower piece, we certainly will. It is complicated. If you have to change batteries every 35 minutes instead of every refilling thing once a day, it changes how you work. It changes how you move batteries. You have to have enough power. The battery banks are sold in 72 bank arrays, which means 72 batteries, and that's just for some equipment. We have a lot of equipment, we have a lot of parts. So the power for that, power to do that, the power to move those batteries, making sure they're able to come and go. They're $150 each. How do you secure each and every one of those?
Stop, and I will call you offline.
Jessica said, this is right here. This is going to be it's the city's longest tequila bar. It is a new venue that will be operated by City Vineyard as part of Pier 57. There is a restaurant going in here at the end, much as I believe this one is tacos, and then it's gonna be sushi on the roof up and the roof space upstairs, so jewel box upstairs.
We just need them to be open after 8 o'clock on Tuesdays, just saying.
Just a quick observation.
Mary's got her hand up. She's had her hand up for a while, and Jessica, and then Tom.
Thanks. I actually have several questions, but in the interest of time, I'll ask the top one, which is in your written report, you reported on the construction at 97. I've asked before about the RFEI for a historic vessel there, and we haven't gotten any update on that. Do you know anything?
We haven't. We've been focused on trying to make sure that the is moving forward. I skipped this one, and I had actually meant to say it. We hit some difficulties with construction. We had some obstructions underground, difficulties with utilities that were not where they said they were, not where they were designed, that we've had to fix. It's really slowed down some of the building pieces, which slowed down the water pieces, which has slowed down other pieces. So we're hoping to open the rest of the remainder of the pier this fall. We will have to look at historic ships pieces going forward afterwards. Once it is open, we can start looking at it, and I know we have some other spaces also. So we have to do some thinking about it. We just haven't gotten to it right now, and currently the person who would normally do thinking about that recently departed the trust. So it is we have to figure out some staffing on who can impart on that also going forward.
Thanks. I had a very nice meeting with Ben Black, the new property manager. So
I'm glad.
Jessica, then Tom, then Kate.
I asked Mike. I'm good.
Okay, Tom, and then Kate.
I went up to Pier 97 today, and I noticed there's a construction like south of the pier, just across and the fence that they put in, well, somebody put in, goes right up to the bike path.
Yeah.
So if you're a pedestrian walking down the west side, you've got to walk into the bike path to get around that. If there's any way to cut that back a few feet.
That area is about to be occupied. We want to do something else with it. That's about to be occupied and
So that is the Pier 94 construction. That is.
South of 90, it's right near 97.
I think
Yeah.
you're talking on the left, yeah,
Right
as
at the
the entrance on the
97.
south side, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Oh, you're talking about right in that, like in the bow notch.
Yeah, just
No.
Yeah.
at
So
the other side of
yeah. So there's
the walkway into 97,
That
right
is
on the.
where, and this is, I really wanted, I push for this. That is where there is utility work happening right now. It is like the pipes are right where we need to go. We are trying to shrink that footprint as much as we can. But it is one of the areas that is lingered on for a long time, in part because the pipes and pieces there that were supposed to be there were not where they were supposed to be, and they were not in the condition they were supposed to be, and they were not. So we've had to do more work vastly more work than we anticipated. It is complicated work in part because they have to work with DEP and other access services, that whole area. So yes, it is we are aware and we are trying to.
Yeah, because it's a safety issue. If you could put a little sign there that says, be careful.
Katie.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Audio is great tonight for us on Zoom, so hats off. But I wanted to just give Robert some very positive feedback, and the access to the July 4th fireworks for disabled people was really wonderful and really smooth, well policed, and very comfortable for those of us who used it. So thank you for thinking of that, and or whoever figured that out.
That was with the city, and they're controlling access, and we had those 88 points. We did help identify where it would work, so I'm glad you were able to use it.
Thank you.
Awesome. Seeing no other hands in the room, we're gonna go quickly down for next topics, and then we're gonna close. So we have Pier 76, which we're gonna discuss. The next meeting that I have on calendar would be in November. So I just want to check to make sure, because October is a really busy month with the holidays, or a lot of compressions. Didn't think we could actually get one in. So we were looking at potentially November 12th, I think, or the 19th. Does that work? When is the fourth meeting?
The 21st, I think.
12th, so yeah.
So I think you guys had sent me a previously one, I think the 12th.
12th.
What you had said before.
So we're gonna be November 12th. We'll be back here. Again, at the Discovery Tank, available online. We do prefer that people come because you get a lot of fun stuff done when you're in person and chatting. So would love people to come. At that point, we're gonna try and invite, hi Jessica.
Well, yeah, we should have related come to that for a discussion
Great
on
idea. Yeah.
the proposed redesign of Western Rail Yards and its impact on the.
So we're gonna invite them for November 12th. We need to set our 2025 meeting schedule, which we'll confirm at the next meeting. Hopefully we'll have some board dates by then. We do have spots for new members, so if you know of an organization, not being a vendor in the park, it needs to be a community organization. We'd love you to look at that. And again, we'll talk about Salesforce. If you have any agenda topic suggestions, please don't hesitate to either speak now, email, Tracy.
I raised this before and I'm happy to help push it forward somehow, but to do a check-in on diversity and equity. And
Equity.
inclusion.
Yep.
Like, well, it's not even one. But I'm happy to email the executive.
It sounds great.
And to clarify, that's among the membership or?
Well, we
DI
have
for the-
a committee that.
We had some initiative and some effort around it, and I think it stalled. I feel like it would be smart for us to touch base on it in some way, and I'll look to the chair to tell me how.
Particularly with open seats.
I think we can talk about it with open seats. I think the program has been spot on as, you know, and accessible and really amazing. So we can just kind of take a.
Well, to reflect back on the work of the committee.
We've got some resources. We should put it all on one page and then just make, get people up to date.
We'll
on it.
include some money.
I'm happy to.
And then maybe do a survey of membership and see where we have some holes. That would be, I think would be smart to be transparent about that.
Perfect. Wendy?
Yeah, I don't know if this has been fixed on the website yet, but it has been saying that there were no openings, so we have to make sure we fix that and have the contact. Because when there was openings and we were having elections and all that.
I think the membership list is being updated. The list just got sent.
It's not just that, though. It's,
And then it will say there that there are spaces open. Please email for information.
yeah, because right now it says there are no openings in the like narrative up top.
Yeah, we will get that fixed.
And just quickly, Robert, I called the trust to try and get a message to you. And the message was, hi, this is Ted. Call me
Oh,
back.
yeah, I think I got that. I don't know if he had the phones.
I called the old number, that.
Anybody else have anything else online or in the room? 8:17, meeting adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Tammy.
No,